I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV episode number 168. We're here with the week's best comics as well as our top 5 list, which will remain a surprise until we get to that point in the program. It is a great week for comics. We say that a lot, but it's because comics are great and we love them. But it truly is a great week for comics. A lot to choose from, so it was difficult to just narrow it down to 3 apiece for us. But I will lead things off with my pick of the week, which was Savage Hulk number 1. This was written and drawn by Alan Davis. And I grew up reading Alan Davis. So basically I grew up looking at Alan Davis and his artwork.
Through these binoculars from the house across the street.
I spied across the pond at merry old England, where Alan Davis is from. But Alan Davis came to my attention through the X-Men, being a penciler in around the 210s. He did a Sabretooth Wolverine story. It was a very famous Wolverine and Sabretooth going at it on the cover, and that was Alan Davis. He kind of was one of the first pencilers to draw Psylocke when she was still Betsy Braddock and still British and not a ninja. And he was the penciler on Excalibur, which spun out of the stuff that was going on in the X books at that time. Now, before that, this is the history lesson on Alan Davis. Before that, he really got his claim to fame by being involved in kind of the British movement of the 80s with, I think he did some Mr. Miracle. He did Captain Britain.
Well, that was back in the days when Marvel had Marvel UK, they weren't just reprinting
US
Captain
stories.
Britain
at that time was it Alan Moore? I'm trying to remember who was writing. Not that Alan Moore was actually Captain Britain, the superhero for Britain.
Well, we don't know. Alan Moore might be.
It was after that point he grew his famous beard. But anyway, Alan Davis is still around and still kind of picking and choosing projects, and he's been doing a lot of things where he can write and draw, and this is his chance to shine with Savage Hulk, which is going to be kind of an anthology series, very similar to Savage Wolverine. You're going to have a different creative team coming on board every few issues to tell a story, and then they're gone. So I don't know how long Alan Davis will be involved with this, but this is I don't want to say a flashback story, but it's a story set back in the 1970s. Actually, it's really cool. On the first page, they give you enough information to start with, but they show the cover of the actual issue of the X-Men that this story takes place immediately after. So it was X-Men 66, which has a cover price of 15 cents.
And it's got to be the 60s, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's got to be late 60s. But it was the last new issue, from what I understand. It was the last issue of original X-Men material until you got to Giant Size.
When they started doing all the reprints.
When they were doing all the reprints for that time period. Yeah. So I've rambled on for a long time, and you're like, why should I pick up this book?
And for those of you keeping track, this happened 11 years ago in current continuity.
Yes, happened 3 weeks ago. So it's the original 5 X-Men. It's Cyclops, Jean Grey, the Beast, Iceman, and friends. So Havoc and Polaris are there, as well as Angel. And Professor X is having migraines. He's having some problems, and he needs Bruce Banner's help to ease his pain. And there's this device that's supposed to kind of help the Hulk, but also help Professor X with his mental crybabiness. That's just Patrick Stewart.
There are 4 lines.
So there's a fight with the X-Men and the Hulk and the leaders there, and the artwork is amazing. And Alan Davis's artwork on its own is great, but he's trying to, I think, capture the spirit of Neil Adams to some degree, who penciled X-Men right around this time period. So I don't know if that's intentional or if that's just as every penciler gets older, he draws more like Neil Adams. I think that's the way it might work.
All roads lead to Rome, and all pencilers eventually become Neil Adams.
But if you want to read, a story with the original 5 X-Men where they're not time displaced, and written by Brian Michael Bendis, although I love that stuff, this book is for you. Savage Hulk number 1 surprised me. I didn't know what to expect, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Also, kind of a surprise this week, we have Original Sin, Iron Man vs. Hulk number 1, 3.1.
Sorry, Josh. I thought Josh was drinking at lunch today. Iron Man versus Hulk.
Yeah, so the Original Sin series is about the Watcher's eyeball somehow revealing secrets to everyone by screaming when a guy squeezes it. I don't know, but it gets us lots of cool stuff.
Most people scream when the balls are squeezed.
Yes, you squeeze the eyeball, it's not good. And one of the anyone who's at or near or within a certain wave radius when that happens has now has hidden knowledge, things that only the Watcher knew, perhaps. And this story is about a secret story from Tony Stark and Bruce Banner's past that interconnects the two of them, and it is revealed to Bruce Banner. But basically, it's an excuse for an Iron Man Hulk story, and that's super awesome. This is written by Mark Waid and Kieran Gillen, with art by Mark Bagley. Is it just Bagley? Mm-hmm. It is just Bagley. Cool. And it's very cool. Basically, chronologically, it picks up right from the end of the previous issue of Hulk, which is great because at the end of the last issue of Hulk, Tony and Arno used the Extremis to fix Bruce's brain. And there's sort of the implication, Extremis has historically been a bad thing. It does great, miraculous things, and then they go horribly, horribly wrong. People become evil, things catch on fire. It's bad. So they're kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop to see what happens. And then right in this fertile bed of Bruce coming back and being returned to his full faculties and possibly turning evil because of the Extremis, this super secret darkness is dropped on him. That reveals that maybe Tony had something to do with the bomb that created the Hulk. And, I mean, that's a great story. I want to read it. I loved the artwork. I loved the book. It was great. You should go read it. If you like the Hulk and Iron Man, this is the writers from the Hulk and Iron Man books writing about Hulk and Iron Man together.
I was in as well. I thoroughly is the word of the day. I enjoyed it. New this week, and this is the 800-pound gorilla this week, is Outcast #1. This is a new creepy horror book by the master of creepy horror, Robert Kirkman, creator of The Walking Dead, with artwork by Paul Azaceta. And the artwork is really strong in this. It actually looks like Sean Phillips, in a way, Ed Brubaker's frequent collaborator on things like Fatale and Criminal. But this, first off, it's a giant book. It's like 48 pages or 42 pages.
With no ads.
With no ads for $2.99. It's a huge honkin' first issue. Kirkman is stepping into the realm of exorcisms, leaving the realm of zombies. Not leaving it, he's entering both realms of zombies and exorcisms. But this is about a guy who appears to be in his 20s or 30s and has been a victim of demons. Not himself necessarily, but some people close to him have been possessed by demons and have made this guy's life kind of a living hell. He's closed himself off from the world, from society, but he has a priest friend, of course, played by Max von Sydow. No, that's who is dealing with a demonic possession of a young boy, and so he seeks this guy out, Kyle, to assist him. And it turns out that the demon that is possessing the young boy is the same demon, or I'm not exactly sure how demons work. It's usually that they are legion, that they all kind of have some sort of consciousness that's shared.
Right.
So we don't know if this is the same demon that possessed his loved one, or if this is one of the legion of demons, right? Which was next to the Legion of Doom and the Super Friends. But this guy, by the end of the book, he realizes that maybe this is his mission in life, to be a demon slayer, so to speak. Not a demon slayer. I mean, it's very grounded, I think. It's not Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's not Doctor Strange. It's not
grounded. It's freaking horrifying. I mean,
well, the possessed
people are like, yeah,
there are people out there, and you may be one of them, who digs these type of things. I mean, I saw that preview for the new Eric Bana movie with the woman he's a cop, and there's this woman who's possessed at the zoo, like scratching in the ground. Mm. And you see that trailer in a darkened theater, and it is creepy. And I'm not watching The Exorcism of Emily Rose or whatever that is, and The Last Exorcism. There's obviously an audience for exorcism movies, and I will never watch The Exorcist ever again. I've seen it twice, once at an impressionable young age.
And it keeps getting funnier every single time you see it?
Keeps getting funnier. So if you're a fan of those sorts of things, and I shouldn't even say a fan, because while I just told you I will never watch The Exorcist again, I was interested in this book. I mean, it's a very well done story, so I want to see what happens next. I want to see where it goes next. I can tell you have something to say.
I always have something to say.
I always have something to say, but what would you like to say?
I really liked it. I'm not traditionally a huge Kirkman fan. I mean, I like some of his books. I like The Irredeemable Ant-Man. Some of the Invincible stuff is quite good. The Walking Dead never really connected with me, partially because I'm not a huge horror fan. But he got me. Because I'm reading it, and as they introduce characters, part of my job is I read a lot of comic books. You know, every random indie book, even the ones that never necessarily make it to our stands, I get to go through and see them. And at a certain pace, you know, as characters are introduced, you make certain assumptions. There are cliches that get fulfilled, and I was sort of expecting it to go that way, and it didn't. Kirkman was great. I mean, he did a good job of playing against my expectations and making it very cool and relevant. I'm excited to see what he does with it.
Well, he's obviously a very busy guy, and he doesn't do much in comics. I mean, he does Invincible and Walking Dead, and he had something, you know, he had Haunt not too long ago, which really didn't go anywhere. He started Thief of Thieves and then kind of dished it off to, you know, someone else, and he's heavily involved with the production of the TV series of The Walking Dead, and I imagine he's involved with the future production of Thief of Thieves if it ever makes it to airwaves. So you can tell when Kirkman, you know, takes on a project, he commits to it, and that's one reason to be excited about this. So Outcast, if you are in our area, we are offering this risk-free. You can pick it up, try it. If you don't like it, bring it back within a week, and we'll give you store credit. So we firmly believe in it. We want you to take a chance on a new independent creator-owned book, and we think something by The Walking Dead's Robert Kirkman is an easy no-brainer.
I think his tombstone is going to read The Walking Dead.
Here lies The Walking Dead's Robert Kirkman.
Beloved father, showrunner.
Bearded man.
So bearded. Next up on my list, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy 16, written by Brian Bendis, with art by Tim Bradshaw? No, Nick Bradshaw.
Nick Bradshaw.
Terry Bradshaw. And and this is sort of the beginning, this is the culmination of the storyline we've been getting after coming out of the trial of Jean Grey. Basically, the Guardians have been scattered to the wind. They picked up a couple new members in Agent Venom and Carol Danvers. And I guess a little bit before that, they also picked up Angela. And so they've been busted up, captured. Some of them are being put on trial. Some of them are being killed. Some of them are being experimented on. And this is the book where we see them start to get their stuff together and maybe break free. And it's got, this is really a Star-Lord book. The other characters get some moments. Drax has actually a couple really cool character moments. But largely it's about Jason, King of Spartax, and his son, Peter Quill. And
Prince of Spartax.
Right, the Star-Lord, which is a hereditary title, I think, maybe.
The legendary.
The legendary Star-Lord. And it's very cool. I can very much see why this book came out now leading into the movie. It makes you want... I believe that it's a leading man character now. Because even in the previous Guardians of the book, you know, Quill is sort of a... He's a reluctant hero. You know, he gets these people together and saves the universe, but it's not his mission. It's not what he's trying to do. And it's still... I mean, really, all he's trying to do in this is survive. But he has some great hero moments in this book, and I'm super excited. Just great. Comics are awesome.
Comics are awesome. Especially this week. Superman 32 is next on the list of comics to talk about. This is the long trumpeted and
why does Superman look like Kick-Ass?
Kinda, yeah. Because he's drawn by John Romita Jr. in his first regular DC book. You know, I believe that he did some Marvel DC crossovers. But he has never really worked for DC Comics, and this is a huge change for anyone that cares. It's a huge change for John Romita Jr., but the comic industry has kind of been like, oh my goodness, John Romita Jr. going to work for the other team. And this first issue, it's a multi-issue storyline. We don't know how many, but Jeff Johns has come back to write Superman. And John Romita Jr. is doing pencils, and it takes place presumably after the end of the Doomed storyline, but it's set in current continuity. It's set in New 52 continuity. And I really liked it. Turns out I like Jeff Johns. I like the way Jeff Johns writes comics. And John Romita Jr., we're going to get to that because we're going to talk about him in our top 5 list. But his artwork for me, and I've mentioned this in previous episodes, has kind of grated on me over the last several years. The Kick-Ass period didn't really work for me, and I guess I'll save a lot of this discussion for afterwards. But I guess the point of this is you should check out Superman number 32. If you're a Superman fan, absolutely. If you're a Romita fan, absolutely. If you're just looking to see Jeff Johns write Superman and check out a new story, pick it up. And it's sold out in the first day at our store because we don't know how to order comics. Because I don't know what happened. We had a lot. We had more than we usually order of Superman by a significant number. But I think the bombshells covered threw off our algorithm. So anyway, Superman 32. Awesome. Thumbs up.
And out this week, we've got Injustice, Gods Among Us, Volume 2 hardcover, and also Volume 1 in softcover. So this is the second half, basically the ending of the first arc, the first year of the Injustice comic based on the video game, written by Tom Taylor, with art by a couple different people throughout the different sections. And it's super, super good. I talk about these issues as I read them, and I've reviewed, I think, several from this arc, because this is just really great. At this point, by the beginning of the second arc, the second issue, what we've got here is Superman is borderline crazy. He's not crazy. He's still Superman. He's still doing what he believes is right, but he's definitely an outlier from the normal, truth, justice, the American way, everything's fair Superman. He's going to extremes to protect people. He's basically kind of militarily controlling the world and all the governments and bossing people around. And Batman's not down with that. So you've got a resistance, a group of superheroes led by Batman trying to fight against Superman. And you've got a bunch of Justice League members on the other side siding with Superman. And this comes down to, we see it. We've got a confrontation both at the Fortress of Solitude and in the Batcave that are both epic and have significant ramifications for characters that you love. I promise.
In the made-up universe.
In the made-up side universe. Don't care. It was still wicked freaking cool. There were oh my god moments in this book. When I read the last issue of this arc, issue 12, which is in the end of this trade, I literally stood up and cheered at one point. So, if you haven't read Injustice, this is a great time to jump in. The first volume is out in softcover now, and you can get the second volume in hardcover, and then jump right into the single issues of what's going on. But volume 2 is out, and it's super great.
And I'm reading this in collected edition, and I've been anxiously awaiting Volume 2, because I read Volume 1, I think it was over Christmas. So it's been like 6 months waiting for this next volume to come out, and listening to him talk about the single issues and how great they are, and it just didn't make it on my radar as single issues. So Injustice is, as Josh said, a must-read for comics fans, but especially for DC Comics fans. Okay, so our top 5 list, and I may adjust this and not call it a top 5 list, but more of an introduction to John Romita Jr.
John Romita Jr. 101.
Johnny Romita Jr.
It feels a humanities credit.
Yes. So this guy's been working in comics forever. I mean, he started probably in I want to say even late 70s, and I could be off on that, but he was super young.
Early 80s, but yeah.
And his father, of course, John Romita Sr., was huge at Marvel, penciled Amazing Spider-Man and Daredevil, and he's one of the original bullpen. It's Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and Jazzy John Romita, who did the How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way book, I believe. It could be John Buscema, I'm sorry. But anyway, it could be Steve Buscemi. No. Okay, so anyway, John Romita Jr. grew up in comics, his father being a comic book artist, and his early stuff, in my opinion, is incredible. He did Amazing Spider-Man, and then jumped into Uncanny X-Men, and then went to Daredevil, and by the time he hit Daredevil, it's like 1987, 1988. But his Daredevil stuff is with Ann Nesenti. He penciled the Typhoid Mary introduction and storyline. He did the Inferno crossovers that were going on with the X-Men. Basically, he worked on Daredevil for a while, but his X-Men stuff is the strongest, in my opinion. Do you recall that? Would you agree?
I don't remember.
No. Okay. So he did, for Uncanny X-Men, he was...
Some of the stuff's on the shelf here, right?
He penciled some Fall of the Mutant stuff. Basically, he was penciling from around, issue, and don't hold me to this, but about 190 to 210 of the Uncanny X-Men.
So the introduction of Genus Phoenix would be in there.
Of Rachel. Of Genus Phoenix.
Oh, sorry, that's 110. Sorry.
Yes.
We're good.
No.
Move along.
He's not that old. What else? So, Amazing Spider-Man, X-Men, Daredevil, and then Daredevil Man Without Fear, the 6-issue or 5-issue miniseries with Frank Miller that was the updating of Daredevil's origin. Mm-hmm. And then he just kind of floated around for a little while. He did some creator-owned stuff, and then came out of the woodwork for Kick-Ass.
I just realized why Kick-Ass with his things in his hand always looks so weird to me, because, there's a
Man Without
page
Fear.
in Man Without Fear that looks almost just like that.
Yeah.
Think about it.
And a lot of people love Romita Jr.'s artwork now. They think it's better than it was before. I still appreciate it, and I think he's very talented, but I think his work was a lot cleaner when he was younger. So Kick-Ass got him a lot of fame. He's actually a co-creator of Kick-Ass. So this was a creator-owned book. He's listed as a co-creator. He's getting royalties.
He owns part of Nick Cage.
Because Mark Miller has his left leg. His Action Comics, no. It's his daughter. His son, Kal-El. He did Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2 and some other stuff, and that didn't really work for me, but then when he came back and did Captain America as part of Marvel Now with Rick Remender, I really enjoy that series, and I think the artwork is top-notch. So now he's over on Superman. If you like his work on Captain America, if you liked his stuff on Kick-Ass, even on Daredevil to some extent, you can see how his style has evolved and changed, but some of it has stayed very close to the way it was 20, 30 years ago. But you have to admire this guy. I mean, he's had one of the longest careers in comics, and he's extremely nice and a popular fellow. People want to work with him. Anything.
Did he ever run on Iron Man? I'm thinking like
he did,
Armor Wars
actually,
era.
Yeah, that's what I think it was Armor Wars 2.
When I think Romita, that's what I see in my head as the armors and stuff.
Yes, and again, I could be wrong on this, but I think it was when John Byrne was writing Iron Man and Romita Jr. was penciling Iron Man. His style is so unique that you look at a book and you know that it's penciled by John Romita Jr. And that's a sign of a great artist or a horrible artist.
It's a sign of a unique artist. Yeah, I don't know if it makes you good, but it makes you memorable.
Yeah.
John Romita?
Not really top 5, but just an introduction to John Romita Jr. for those of you that may not be familiar with the guy. And the fact
Who's this Romita guy?
For the fact that he's worked in comics for 30 years and is still a very popular artist. As the sellout here at Alter Ego Comics of Superman number 32 goes to show.
I mean, Jeff Johns is also a pretty popular writer. So,
that could
it could be him coming on.
Yeah. All right, so question for you folks. Just throwing this out there. Do you have any interest in doing a Google Hangout with us where we talk about comics? Basically, we do a review show, but you're involved, and we're able to talk about comics together. If you are interested in doing a Google Hangout, call Josh leave a comment below, let us know, because we're thinking about doing that. Maybe, I don't know the best time to do it, maybe a Friday evening. It would have to be an evening because we really can't do it during the day.
Eastern Standard.
Yes, it will be Eastern time for those of you on the West Coast or in foreign countries.
I was going to say anywhere else, really.
You in Dubai, Eastern Standard Time. But we've had some people bring it up. The staff is kind of interested in doing it, and I think it'd be kind of cool to interact with some of our viewers and talk about comics together and what we like. So let us know in the comments if you're up for something like that. Let us know your favorite John Romita Jr. comics work and what you thought of this week's comics. Thanks for watching. See you next time.